Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of you are making the most out of the virtual platform, all the experiences that we've curated for all of you. At the same time, all the sessions that are in store for all of you. Without any delay, let's get our next session started. In fact, it's a very interesting panel discussion coming up for all of you around private banks embracing emerging technologies to drive bold transformations with customer-centric approach. We have the presence of our speakers, Sumoth C, Vice President and Head Digital Center of Excellence, the Federal Bank Limited; Ellis Wang, Senior Executive Vice President, Group Head of Technology, Transformation and Information, Mashreq Bank; Prasanna Lohar, Chief Innovation Officer, DCB Bank Limited; Ritesh Varma, Global Head and Vice President, Business Solutions Group, NewGen Software. And the one person who will be extracting insights from all of our speakers, we have with us none other than Kunal Pande, partner KPMG, who will be spearheading this panel discussion. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned as we get all of our panelists on the screen over here. Here they are, and we'll get the session started. With that, Mr. Pande, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kavya. Good morning to my fellow panelists, and good morning to all the participants who are listening to us today. It's been my pleasure to have personalities with huge amount of experience. We have people who are from industry in India, global experience from Ellis's perspective, and also people who have been working really hard to deliver the goods through the technology solutions as Ritesh is. So without further ado, I will quickly get on to the session. We are discussing the area which I think all of us are interested in, how banks are leveraging technologies. And in that context, let me start with the same question. And Sumoth, I would like to have your views. We see banks are leveraging emerging technologies to provide a very high quality and convenient services. Please, could you share from your experience key imperatives to provide such high quality and convenient services? Also, if you could highlight from your experiences, what are the risks or traps that can prevent organizations, banks from achieving the desired outcome? Sumoth, over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Kunal. Good morning, everyone. Hope I'm audible.
Yes.
So basically, I'm splitting your question in two parts on the emerging technologies which you're telling, and on second thing on the risk and security aspects. So if I come to your first question, of course, as you are aware, a lot of technologies are emerging, especially in the BFSI industry. But when we talk about those technologies which actually add real value to the customers, I'm just focusing on those areas which BFSI industry is moving towards. For example, what you can say, AI/ML technologies is one buzzword right now, which is happening in the industry. So if you take a Federal Bank as an example, what we are doing is basically we are using this particular model in various aspects of our internal alignments. For example, for credit scoring, we are using this AI/ML technologies and data analytics tools to do credit scoring, to predict the delinquency of a customer, maybe, and to approach those customers in a more proactive manner. That's one thing. And of course, any asset product is a risk versus product pricing perspective. So basically, using these models, we are able to offer a better pricing to our most eligible customers based on the scoring models, based on our past data analytics. Plus, we are actually involving some other risk models. That's one thing which I can mention. Second, one prominent tool which I'm sure all the banks and industries will be using is RPA, robotic process automations, for our backend automations. If I can take my organization, we are using more than 200 plus bots for various backend operations, which are rather mundane activities for a human to do. It's a repetitive activities where we don't want any precious manpower to spend the time. So almost all our backend technological operations are right now done using RPA technologies, which runs 24/7 without any illness, without any pandemic situations. So this goes on. Actually, this helped very much for us during this last 2 years in the pandemic area, because none of the processes got affected because of any absence of manpower, because these RPAs were carrying on their job 24/7 tirelessly. That's one thing. Then if I come to cloud technology, of course, I just want to spend some time on that. Earlier, there was an apprehension that these clouds are not that much secure when coming to on-premise deployment, but now the situation has been changed. A lot of services are now taken to cloud, whether it's SaaS, PaaS, IaaS, all those services we are using cloud technologies. One advantage is that the nimbleness which we achieve using these cloud technologies. When earlier it took so many months, weeks to procure hardware, set up this thing. Now we can go live for certain services maybe within a few days adopting this cloud technologies. But of course, it has its own risk and this thing. But that on an evaluation we choose that one. So these are the major new technologies which we highlight. Maybe some of the things which are evolving that we need to wait and watch as IoT wearables. So these things are just evolving. We need to wait and watch how this ecosystem develops. Maybe I'll say UPI when it comes in 2016. That was maybe a new technology for us. But now even a layman is using that. Maybe we have to wait and watch how these technologies are emerging. That's why I wanted to talk about the technologies. Of course, on the security side, I just want one or two things. After this demonetization in 2016 and pandemic in 2020, the digital penetration, digital payments has increased multifold. Equally, the risk and cyber security and the frauds increased in the industry. So one thing which we are doing is that we are using endpoint solutions, especially now mobile is the major tool for each and every person to do financial transaction. I'm just focusing my talk on the financial transactions in the banking industry. So we are using multiple endpoint technologies in our mobile banking platforms to ensure that our customers are safe in using this. So it detects whether any malwares are in their handsets. It detects whether any remote sharing apps are installed. And lot of frauds are now happening using these remote apps and all, sharing apps, screen sharing apps and all. So our mobile banking is actually we are plugged in tool there, endpoint solution there. It detects all those tools and it prevents such tools from interfering with our mobile banking to ensure that our customers have a seamless and safe experience in doing these financial transactions. Second thing on the awareness, of course, that's a regular thing which we are doing to make awareness to the customers about what all the frauds happening in the industry, how you should be careful in sharing those information or not sharing those information to those. So this is what I wanted to tell.
Sure. Thanks, Sumoth. This was useful, and I think a couple of points which I picked up was digital capabilities also bringing in resiliency. So in case of pandemic, you were able to deliver value to the customers because your capabilities were fully digitalized. So that's a very important point. We do see that in a number of our clients, and of course, cloud being one of the underlying tenet there. Thanks, Sumoth, for sharing your thoughts and your practical experiences. It's really useful. I would now like to move to Ellis, to you. We are seeing lot of action which has happened in the retail side, and what we see is banks are now also focusing on the commercial side of it, and commercial side of businesses are more complex. You as somebody who has done that in your bank, I think is in a great position to share what does it take to digitize and offer value to the customer in the commercial side of it, and what would be some of the challenges or traps which organizations can fall into when they are going in their journey for digitizing the commercial side of business. So Ellis, I would like to invite you to share your thoughts to our audiences, please.
Yeah, Mashreq Bank actually like a commercial bank moved to the digital banking. I think the most important is how we to digitalize the all connected service and running in the cloud. I think the challenge right now for the digital banking is how we to operate all the service by the AI driven. Why this is so important? Because all commercial banks move to the platform business, more engaged with the marketplace. So how you to support the open architecture, so as we call it open banking, provide an open API can be more easily integrated with the different fintech eco partner. So when we move to the open banking, how you to change the bank infrastructure to run on the cloud, manage my data, and also can provide an open API to integrate with different kind of service. I think that is very important. If we focus on the customer centricity, that means customer have the more expectation from you, even you integrate your partner solution. They want to have the one-shot experience, end-to-end, easy to use. But think about that. Most of the service, maybe it's not come from your in-house design, it's from your partner. So how you to integrate different kind of service flow into your payment service. So that is the challenge. So for the digital banking, right now we need to focus on the two things. One is the platform business, how you to integrate a different market player. The second, how you to provide your core functionality like a payment hub. This part is we call the bank as a service. You can provide your payment service, integrate with the e-commerce, even food delivery company, even the airline ticket booking the company. So if we focus on the customer centricity, not just the UI UX easy to use, you need to integrate all the service flow into one place with your partner. I think that is more challenging part because service flow actually is not designed in-house. The second is, since you provide an open API based on an open banking architecture, how you to enhance the cybersecurity, how you to do a good job on the data governance, how you to run the cloud excellent, things you integrate different service in one place. So infrastructure as a service is a bank, as a bank, you need to take care before you only run the service on your data center. But now you need to decentralize all of your service and application running on the cloud and integrate with your partner. So you have to change your infrastructure to be like infrastructure as a service. And if we go vertical, like a bank, we provide the financial service. It's like a vertical business. But things you integrate with a platform, marketplace, eco-partner, you also need to think about how you to go the vertical based on the open architecture to integrate like insurance, education service into your portal, landing page. So you have to start to build a digital credit because your client, your customer, maybe they have a good credit on e-commerce, but not meaning you have a good credit for mortgage. So you start to need to build dynamic personal digital credit based on their behavior on the internet. And based on their customer behavior, the data, you start to provide a personalized and customized service to them. So when we talk about a customer centricity, it's not just the UI UX good looking. It's how you to deep integrate with different kind of service based on the platform of the security and run very efficiency with your eco-partner. So that is very new challenge to the bank. It's more like you need to transforming the bank as the fintech, internet technology. So I think that is a more challenging part. That's for my sharing.
Thank you, Ellis, for a great points. I was noting down some of the things, and I think I noted down platform business as a very important point, wherein as a bank, looking at the customer, as you mentioned, on customer centricity, how do you bring in the various platform partners together to provide a seamless business. And I remember one of my conversation with the CIO colleague, and the point was that banking is many times or most of the time not the fundamental need of the customer. Customer wants to buy a good or a service or maybe a mortgage, and banks are there to enable it. So how do you integrate into the core, as you mentioned about bank as a service? I think that's a very, very important point, delivering the end-to-end services to the customer. So thanks for sharing your thoughts, Ellis. Really helpful. I'm sure the audience have found some useful tips for their part. Let me move forward. I think one of the points which both Ellis and Sumoth mentioned were around, how do you bring in insights which are actionable for customers, and also in that matter across the ecosystem. Banks in the digital era are looking for real-time and actionable insights. And there are various things which they are doing to achieve it. I would like to go to Prasanna, to you, and request you to share your experiences covering both the technologies and approaches which you have been using or you're seeing being used to deliver these value outcomes, so that customer centricity can be enabled through real-time actionable insights. Prasanna, if I could request you to come in.
Yeah, so thank you, Kunal, and thank you, organizers, for inviting me here to talk on a very prominent topic, right, on a digital transformation and how technology is really helping. I think while we talk about technology, it's not only technology helps for any of the bank to transform any of the customer experiences, right? Although there are, we need to see what is the current bank's level, right? So considering people expertise and buying from a board members or top management and strategy of the bank, whether they want to go with digital banking, but on what level, right? You talk about what is the current process at that particular bank for any of those digital agendas, for example, customer onboarding, or say example, how do we take care of operations, considering customer experience, or how are we handling contact centers, right, to provide a customer engagement and customer services. So while we do all of this, I think when we design or decide a digital transformation strategy, look at all the interfaces today, right, which are centric to the customer. So starting with where customer onboarding starts. So their technology comes like eKYC or video KYC, or how do we utilize artificial intelligence or OCR kind of a technology while we are onboarding some of the documents of a customer. So that could be the way to see how we are onboarding new technologies for a customer experience, starting with the customer onboarding. Then how are we serving the customers, either through contact center or on mobile apps, right? So I think gone were those days, some of the banks were searching for mobile app. Now everything is on a mobile first journey, right? So now we have to add more services on top of that platform. Like now some of the apps are now becoming super apps. It's not only banking services, but now non-banking services are also coming up, so that the engagement of the customer remains with that brand, like or a PayZapp or Google Pay or Phone Pay, while they are now onboarding many more things. At the same time, now customers are engaging existing banks are engaging existing customers and the new customers with the fintech alignment. Right, all of a sudden you will get millions of customers through that fintech, while in a branch you might get thousands of customers in a few days. So that kind of a technology is now coming up to service the customer for not only banking but non-banking services. I think while we do this, if we divide this whole customer centricity services into 3 different areas, while the first area is around, it's not only branch, is not only mobile or internet. How are we giving most of the self-service models for a customer, for they themselves to open bank account from some mobile apps, or while they are in the bank branch, how you can involve them in a non-human entity. So I think you will see rise of digital branches or manless branches, where or pop-up branches, they appear for some time and they disappear and they go to some other location based upon the need of a customers, right? So I think you will see a lot of attraction, lot of innovations happening in that area. Before pandemic and post-pandemic, now the scale of innovation has increased. At the same time, demand from the customer has increased. So how do we have some contactless experiences, conversational experiences, or at the same time, how do we safeguard security aspect? So earlier it was just a OTP or But we could see that RBI and even some of the controls guidelines which are come up like in form of digital payment controls, PCI-DSS this year, which has been published new guidelines. So how do we make security more and more invisible rather than remembering so many passwords? Can we now have an adaptive authentication or a multi-factor authentication? So that kind of a way we will see. So while we are serving customers, what is the next way we have to look at that? How do we give back to customers or bidirectional banking? It's not only customer coming to you, but how do we reach back to the customer, either in form of AI or a big data where we are understanding the data of a customer and giving back the whatever they are aspiring for, or just say example, somebody is entering the bank branch and we understand who has entered in the bank. Based upon he has given a consent that Mr. Kunal is gonna enter, and so all of a sudden Prasanna comes out and greets Kunal, right? Sir, how can I help you? But sir, I think based upon your last six months or 7 months bank balance, you should really go for this. I think so. This was the exercise which people have to do on call, several calls throughout the day, and at the end of the day, you will find 1 or 2 customers, potential customer. So, but here you can have automated calls with the automated contact center, or a automated branch officer will come to know easy green or a red, right? As far as the financial health is concerned. So that cross-industry gamification also coming to the banking industry, so that they can serve customer wherever they are. Now, when I say wherever they are we having omni-channel architecture kind of a mechanism? So customer started some journey from one channel and ending up at a branch or ending at some other internet banking, right? So this is what we are seeing. So now, as you spoken to our friend Ellis, right, around a commercial side or some kind of a business side of it. So now technology is not remaining only here. And if you see some of those initiatives which Government of India driving through some of the regulatory entities like REBIT or NPCI, right, or GSTN. So I think that kind of I keep eye on that technology and say incorporating any of your channels for tax payment or a direct GSTN payment. So I think, Kunal, just to brief, it's a different ecosystem now we have to look at. It's not only traditional core banking. We need to see how do we build digital core banking on top of for a customer, which is backed by AI, tomorrow blockchain. Sumoth was talking about variables, which again part of the customer interactions. So how this third wave, which is coming from in form of a 5G, how are we ready for that? So I think this gives a complete package, at least one layer of a package where we tells you how do you go to the next orbit for any of the banks. So these are the ways technology is really taking us to the next level. Yeah.
Well, thanks, Prasanna. I think I noted few points like bi-directional bank. I think that's a very important point of how do you look at what customer is looking at and reach out to the customer in a proactive manner, in a very customized manner. And then, of course, looking at some of these new technologies which are coming in, 5G, variables, blockchain, which allows you to do various things. The core of it, of course, is data. And the point which I wanted to again look at, and Ellis, I would request your thoughts on how real-time actions and real-time actionable insights are being looked at by banks in providing customer-centric offerings. If I could take your thoughts also, please. Ellis, would you be able to come in, please, and share your thoughts on how banks are looking for real-time and actionable insights? Share your thoughts on what kind of technologies and approaches are being taken to deliver the right outcome to the customer. Ellis, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. So I think that is more challenging question for the bank, because when we start to integrate with different service from the outside, so we call this is the outside in. When you integrate the e-commerce food delivery company, you need to have the outside in strategy, because that the service from the outside, they have their own customer onboarding. They have their own credit measure dashboard. But since you link with your payment service as one, how you to sync two systems as a one to provide the right customer data. The data is not just customer behavior. The data is more focused on the data governance. I think that's two part is very important. So we call us is operation excellence, because you need to make the customer like a one click done everything, but also you need to management their behavior and do the right government put in on top of it. So that part actually is quite challenge. So if we need to implement this, we also need to change our super app. So we start have the new thinking is automatic adapting products design. What is that? When you use the super app as a new onboarding customer, I will give you more like a standard default offer to you based on your customer segmentation. But after 2 months, you are a regular user. I start to give you a personalized offer based on your need. Maybe you have the more demand on insurance. So I start to have the more deep dive data analyze about your salary, about your family, about everything. And I give you a really good insurance offer to you and your family. But after you transfer to the VIP, you are not just the consumer user, you also are the owner of the business. I start to thinking, how can I provide you corporate insurance to you? So auto-adapting product design actually is combine the customer data analyze your behavior and matching with the group segmentation, customer profile to provide customized offer to you. I think that is the new things we need to adopt that technology into the super app. Right now, super app is more like you put all the service there. Let the customer to choose by their own. But actually, customer is not smart as you because there's so many different offer over there. Condition offer, then your customer need to think about which one is the best offer for them. That is the challenge for the super app, how we to move from a standard offer to be the personalized offer. So your app, super app, actually must be smart enough to auto adaptation of the customer need and behavior. I think that is more challenge how when we talk about the customer centricity, and we need to get a real-time data to analyze, of course, but not enough. You also need to check if the digital credit to combine as a government's rule, provide personalized offer. So that's what we call the automation adaptation product design. That's my sharing.
Thanks, Ellis. I think lots of very interesting points you have shared, and I'm sure audience have taken notes. I have taken notes. A super app, how it needs to be simple to begin with, but understand customer behavior and offer fit for purpose products. You gave example of insurance from a personal side, then further adding on to the corporate insurance. I think that's very, very interesting. And on top of all of this, data governance, because underlying all these capabilities, the power is through data, and how do you make sure your data is really governed in the right manner so that you come up with the right insights for the customers. Really important points, and I think really key for success here. And of course, I can't miss out the operational excellence, which you said, which again is very important to make sure that the capability built is also backed by a high degree of operational excellence, so that's delivered in a consistent and consistent manner to the customers. Thank you, Ellis, for sharing that. With that, I'll move to my next question. And one of the things which we see clearly is that when we say digital revolution, partnering with fintechs really comes at fore. And a lot of these fintechs use emerging technologies. Banks themselves are using emerging technologies. So I would like to again go back to Prasanna, to you, and request your thoughts on What are the mantras you believe are there for successful journey here in terms of partnering with fintechs and delivering the right kind of products and services to our customers? Prasanna, if I could have your thoughts here, please.
Yeah, excellent. I think this is an excellent question, Kunal. I think every banker who is hearing us should listen that what all those things are really required for. It has to come from top, okay? And primarily, suppose a bank wants to start with a fintech alignment, they need to look at whether they have a right architecture within bank, like API-based architecture or ESB kind of ecosystem, which will inherit all the APIs from core banking and many other ecosystem, which ecosystem-based API, which are available for a particular business case. Now, second thing, which is very important, what is your bank's criteria and aspiration or KRA? Are you a SME bank or are you a retail bank or are you want to get into co-lending, lending? So that kind of a business suite of API should be available. So technically, we may call it as a microservices or any of the monolithic APIs. But as a business unit, do we have that set of APIs? For example, let's say a bank want to collaborate with a top-end fintech for a fixed deposit. So do you have all set of APIs, onboarding, KYC, AML, right, to take care of a DDU, and then followed by the payment API? So whole stack of APIs should be available. Third aspect, to look at how much agile is your IT team or a support team who will help to onboard fintechs. So today, most of the banks struggle into that. So I think I go with some of our friends spoken about banking as a service, right? So these platforms will come and help to consume the banking APIs and open up them as a bank's partner, right, to any of those fintech partners. For example, one BaaS server service provider comes and says, I am already aligned with the 10 banks. So it makes sense for some of the fintechs come and integrate with this BaaS player rather than go to point bank. At the same time, this BaaS player says, I am already aligned with the 10 fintechs. So it's good for a bank to come and talk to this BaaS player rather than have a, so it depends upon bank to bank, what strategy they want to adopt. Fourth aspect, which is around compliance and data security, privacy, where your IT security officers and compliance officers will have a better role to understand how and where they are putting their data center and most of the implementation, right? So it comes with the traditional banking, the way we evaluate our partners, where our installations are deployable on cloud or non-cloud. So these are the ways to look at it. There are other guidelines which typically every bank follows as a agreement, right? Agreement on APIs and their own processes, which has to be signed off, and then only open up those APIs some banks have their development portal, which are for fintechs to come and just to do a sandboxing, and after that actual agreement starts. So I think RBI which has opened up their sandboxes, IFCA has done their sandboxes. I think having a sandbox at a bank level is okay, but also look at how do we collaborate with other sandboxes where you will have a use cases among not only bank, insurance, that kind of a use cases we need to look at it, right? So at a bank level, we should have a strategy document. How do we review those fintechs? We should have some kind of a dedicated business fintech officer or a dedicated IT unit, which will have an agenda. Like we have seen traditional banking, right? POS. You have to give the POS and put it onto the merchant location. You have to see that ways. Earlier days, it used to take 4 to 5 days to implement a POS. And earlier days, it used to take almost 15 days to integrate APIs, maybe more than that, right? Where there are a lot of business level aspects, agreement aspects. So we need to see how we have to bring those fintechs within half a day. So that kind of how do you have that kind of architectures which will suit on? So these some of the aspects will really help Kunal. So at a bank, we have a dedicated guidelines for every steps which are helping us and have an accelerator program either partnered with or your own, which will help us to create that pipeline of a fintechs. So you never know what is a new business model or what kind of, maybe today we talk about a new bank or challenger bank. It could be something X-bank kind of a business model will come through these kind of engagements. Yeah.
Sure. So thanks, Prasanna. I think your points about keeping a razor sharp eye on what are the offerings, having internal capabilities to make sure that you can, leverage the fintech capability in a very agile manner. Of course, agreements so that you're covering your requirements and the risk aspects also getting covered through right kind of agreements. Building capabilities around sandboxes so that the speed of
one more aspect, which is a futuristic aspect.
Prasanna, I would request if you could I'll come back to you. We are not okay.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, please.
If you look at the fintech journey in India, you would see 90% fintechs in a payments in 2015. So where it has reduced to the 40%, it is not reduced. Rather, the other business models are coming up heavily.
Sure. No, of course. Okay, I think we've lost Prasanna. But moving forward, in this and some of the very interesting point which Prasanna made for all of us, I would like to come to you, Ritesh. You have been on the other side, providing a lot of solution, also facing a lot of challenges. Fintechs, I'm sure you are also seeing, and you are also responding in terms of how the partnership with the banks can be enabled. One of the other thing, along with fintech, and I would like to ask that question also to you, is when we look at digital transformation, a key tenet is around being flexible and being agile. And technology flexibility and agility is really fundamental to deliver it. What would be your experiences, both in terms of fintech partnership as well as technology agility and flexibility in driving this digital adoption? So, would request your thoughts, Ritesh.
Thanks, Kunal, and it has been a very, very enriching discussion so far. I'd just like to take a step back. If you look at it, we are living in an age of digital storm. Why I call it a digital storm is because unlike any other time, we have the right data not just pertaining to individuals, but also a lot of other things that you can do on it. You have the right computing power, and cloud has even made it immense. So you don't need to invest in computing. It still kind of gets you to the point. And probably we were struggling with digital transformation till some time back. Come 2020, everything changed. You could not live without digital at any point of time. So if you look at it, COVID, while it kind of had a lot of ill effects on things, it hyper accelerated digital. So people have started to look at combining the data that is already available with them with the agility of doing business, and ultimately giving the service that people demand at an overall level to them. So if you look at it, it's the time where hyper-personalization would also come in. And hyper-personalization, not in terms of just offerings, but also the way that you do business. Every organization, lending may be a lending, but the way that an organization does it would be entirely very, very different. And that's where technologies like low code, like RPA, intelligence, AI, ML, bots, and cloud would play a very, very critical role. Fintechs, we, on the other hand, we also see that banks are also very, very regulated, which probably is also an issue with them because there's as much as they can do in the boundaries of the regulation. And that's where the NBFCs and fintechs or the neobanks or the challenger banks give them the run for their money. Today, it's not about investment into brick and mortar, but into the right technologies to kind of catapult you to the right level. What is unfortunate to note is that people or banks are still concentrating on the onboarding part of things. So a recent example is where if you have to open a new account, you have video KYC, you have 10 of thousands of ways of doing it. However, if you have to get a joint account converted from dormant to active, the process is simply crazy. And that's where banks need to look at implementing technologies to service customers as well. Using new technologies, why can't it be done with a video KYC for activating or converting a dormant customer? Why do two people have to be present at the same location in front of the bank manager, sign in front of him a set of forms to get it activated? So technology's implementation has to be holistic. The agility, the other things is also to be towards the customer servicing aspect of things, the cross-sell, upsell. So we talked about, I think Mr. Wang talked about the real-time offers and real-time things related to it, the real-time interaction management or conversation management, as Mr. Lohar talked about, is going to be the game changer for the future. It is something that you utilize the data pertaining to the customer that you already have, mix it with the things that are going to kind of come up and offer the next best thing to him, so that you convert that on the ledge customer to a customer at the end of the point day. So at the end, I would just like to say there are technologies like ours who are working towards holistically revamping the banks, more towards customer experience, operational excellence, and business innovation. So we are promoting all of them to come in together in order to change the way banks think, banks implement, and banks do business. And I think these are one of the most exciting times where you don't know what would happen in the next 6 months, and agility would be the key to the future. Nimbleness would be the key to the future. Thanks, Kunal.
Thanks, Ritesh, for the thoughts. And I think very important point which you mentioned, and earlier Ellis and Prasanna also was mentioning, in fact Sumoth also mentioned, is about how do you really engage with the customer on an ongoing basis, providing newer types of products, engaging with them on services. Because in sometimes I say in my words that digital capabilities are like pipes. I can build all the pipes and invest, but unless and until transactions or the interactions, which is, I would say, water flows through it, the value doesn't come in. So very important part is to see how do we keep innovating. And I think, Alice, your examples of super app and how do you keep adding based on the learning which you're having about customers to offer very fit for purpose, customized products are really, really important. We are also coming towards the end of our time in the journey. So I would like to kind of maybe move towards a Q&A, and we have one question which I have got from the audience, which I would like to ask. And maybe Ritesh, if you could start, and then maybe anybody else also can chip in. The question is from the person is, how can I minimize cost for bots? So I will also request you to add the element of value and cost. So Ritesh, over to you if you could share your thoughts.
Well, that's a very, very interesting question, because everyone is talking about RPA today. However, implementation of an RPA is also an assimilation as to what would that RPA tool do. Where would it get its data, and what would be the key output related to it? So RPA might not be the answer to everything. It's not all encompassing. We have to see where its implementation would be. Is there an alternative API, as Mr. Lohar mentioned, API that can serve the same purpose, and go about doing a direct integration probably. So RPA is just a way of doing things. However, you have to consider the human aspect of things, the other API related things, and the end objective related to it before you indulge into it. So bots and all its capabilities, much respected, but it has to be implemented correct in order to make the best use of it.
So one view from my side on RPA. So RPA is part of a transformation journey. And if you divide the whole transformation journey in 3 areas, front and back, and most of these front and backs are connected with the mid. So there comes RPA, automation, right? So how do we have those journeys for employees or customers? And based upon organization type, there are disconnected, connected journeys. Digital first organization do not need RPA, but the organizations which are writing their architecture processes from so many years together, so they will have a room of enhancing in many of those processes. Now, if you automate with any of the process with RPA, it has always a room after 6 months to re-automate. That's the way to look at it. Now, while you do this, please get handholding from some of the stakeholders like UiPath or Automation Anywhere, and look at for this use case, which player or which automation technology is very useful, and look at the cost aspect also. If it is an automation just like a data entry, and if you're going for something big, it will not give a viable aspect. So choosing multiple partners while you have a RP journey is the best suited structure for any of the organizations which are suited for RP. Every organization is not suited for RP. Yeah.
Thanks, Prasanna. Thanks, Ritesh. Really, thanks for your insights. We have run over the time, and I would like to thank each and every one of you, Ellis, for you sharing your thoughts, Sumoth for your insights, Ritesh for your thoughts, and Prasanna for your insights. I really learned a lot, and I'm sure our audiences would have learned a lot in this discussion. As everything comes to an end, in spite of my more set of questions, I need to close the session, and with that, I will close the session and hand it back to Kavya. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for very beautifully moderating that session. And I must admit with you, I resonate with the fact that we didn't want the session to end, because the kind of insights that kept coming with the kind of questions that you shared, I think I'd like to take a second to also thank all our panelists for joining us this morning and for sharing some very, very important experiences and expertise as well with our audience members. So thank you once again to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned as we're about to get started with our next session as well. Meanwhile, please do take note that we also have the parallel tracks taking place at the same time with the CXO boardroom tracks. So I hope you're also looking forward to that. But stay tuned and we'll get our next session started in just a couple of seconds. I'll be back in just a couple of seconds. Stay with us.